The golden light of a late Saturday afternoon spilled through the living room window, painting long, lazy rectangles across the worn Persian rug. I was nestled in my favorite armchair, a book resting, mostly unread, in my lap. The house was quiet, a rare and sometimes deafening silence that had become more frequent since David, my husband, had passed. 18 months, and the quiet still had a weight to it, a physical presence that filled the rooms he used to. My son, Mark, moved through the stillness, a contrast of youthful energy against the settled dust motes dancing in the sunbeams. At 24, he was all sharp angles and thoughtful eyes, a young man who had inherited his father's quiet demeanor but my own, more hidden, sensitivity. He was fiddling with his camera, a sophisticated-looking digital thing he'd saved up for months to buy. Photography had become his passion, his escape, and frankly, I think it was his therapy after losing his dad. "Mom," his voice was soft, careful not to startle me from my reverie. I looked up, offering a small smile. "Yes, honey." He shifted his weight from one foot to the other, a nervous habit he'd had since he was a little boy asking for a later curfew. "I was thinking, I'd really like to take your picture." The request was so simple, yet it sent an immediate, irrational jolt of resistance through me. "Oh, Mark, now, I'm a mess. I haven't even done my hair today." I gestured vaguely at my loose ponytail and my old, comfortable sweater. This wasn't entirely a lie. The reflection in the mirror these days was of a woman I was still getting to know, a widow, her face etched with a new kind of map, one charting loss and a future she hadn't planned. "You're not a mess," he said, his tone patient but firm. "You're just you, and that's what I want. Not some posed, stiff version. Just you, here, in the light." There was an intensity in his gaze that went beyond a photographer seeking a subject. It felt more like a request, an important one. I felt a familiar pull, the mother's instinct to give her child what he asks for, warring with the woman's instinct to hide from a lens that would see too much. "Please," he added, and in that single word, I heard the little boy who needed one more story at bedtime. I sighed, a soft, surrendering sound. "All right, for a minute, but I'm not promising I'll be any good." A genuine smile broke across his face, transforming it. "You don't have to be anything, Mom. Just sit there." He directed me to turn my chair slightly, so the setting sun was warming my profile. The warmth was comforting, like a gentle hand on my cheek. He lifted the camera, and I instinctively stiffened, my smile becoming a tight, practiced curve of my lips, the one I used for holiday cards and obligatory family gatherings. "No, no," he murmured, his eyes still pressed to the viewfinder. "Don't smile. Just look out the window. Think about something else. Think about something else." The instruction was a key turning in a lock I kept tightly shut. How could I think of anything else when the silence in this house was a constant reminder? I let my gaze drift to the window, to the giant oak tree in the yard David had planted the summer Mark was born. He'd said he wanted to plant a tree that would grow strong alongside his son. As my eyes lost their focus on the present, the past came rushing in, vivid and unbidden. The camera shutter clicked, a soft, rhythmic sound in the quiet room. The first click transported me. I was no longer 58 in a quiet living room. I was 25, standing in a kitchen drenched in morning light, the smell of coffee and pancakes filling the air. David was at the stove, flipping a pancake with a ridiculous flourish, making our 5-year-old Mark squeal with laughter. I was holding the old, chunky point-and-shoot camera, trying to capture the moment. The photo was slightly blurry, David caught mid-laugh, a blob of batter on his cheek, Mark's face a perfect circle of joy. That photo was still tucked away in a physical album somewhere, its colors fading but its happiness forever bright. Click. Another memory, this one sharper, more poignant. Mark at 13, all elbows and knees and a stormy expression, slamming his bedroom door after an argument about a missed curfew. David had gone to talk to him, and I'd stood in this very hallway, listening to the low, patient rumble of his voice. Later, David had emerged, put his arm around me, and said, "He'll be okay. He's just figuring out who he is." He was always the calm to my storm, the anchor in the choppy waters of parenting. Click. The memory of the hospital room was a cold wave. The sterile smell, the beeping of monitors that eventually fell silent. David's hand, once so strong and capable, lying thin and pale in mine. I had memorized every line on his face, trying to sear it into my soul, knowing it would have to last me a lifetime. The last words he'd whispered, not to me, but about me, to a teary-eyed Mark standing on the other side of the bed, "Take care of your mom. She's the strongest person I know." I never felt strong. I felt shattered. Click, click, click. The shutter was relentless, a metronome keeping time with the flood of my life. The first time I had to eat dinner alone in this house. The first birthday, the first anniversary, the first Christmas without him. The long, empty days where I'd wander from room to room, picking up objects, his favorite coffee mug, a book he never finished, and feeling the ghost of his presence in the dust. But then, other memories surfaced, ones I'd forgotten to cherish. Mark showing up unannounced with groceries and a determined look, insisting on making me dinner. The way he'd learned to fix the leaky faucet I'd been nagging David about for years. The quiet evenings we'd spent on this very couch, not talking much, but just being together, a new, two-person unit navigating a three-person world. I wasn't just remembering the loss. I was remembering the love that preceded it, and the love that remained. I was remembering my own resilience, piece by painful piece. The woman in the armchair wasn't just a widow, she was a mother, a survivor, a person who had loved deeply and was learning, slowly, how to live again. I didn't realize I was crying until I felt a warm tear trace a path down my cheek, following the line the sun had drawn. I didn't wipe it away. I let it fall, a silent testament to the journey the camera was documenting. The clicking stopped. The room was silent again, but the silence felt different now. It was no longer empty, it was full. Full of echoes and memories, full of the love that had been spoken into these walls for 30 years. Mark lowered the camera. His own eyes were glistening. We looked at each other for a long moment, a silent understanding passing between us. He hadn't just been taking a picture, he had been bearing witness. He had been saying, without words, I see your pain. I see your history. I see you. He walked over slowly and knelt beside my chair, just as he had as a child for a secret. He didn't say anything. He just wrapped his arms around me and laid his head on my shoulder. I held him, my son, my man-child, my greatest comfort, and felt the solid, real weight of him. We stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in the dying light and the shared, unspoken language of family and loss and enduring love. A week later, Mark came over again. He had a large, flat package under his arm. His expression was a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation. I finished editing the photos, he said, his voice careful. I printed one for you. My heart did a little flip. I was nervous to see it. What version of me had he captured? The grieving widow, the tired mother, the shell of the woman I used to be. He leaned the package against the sofa and carefully peeled back the brown paper. As the image was revealed, I caught my breath. It wasn't just one photo. He had created a single, breathtaking composite image. The central figure was me, in the armchair, bathed in that golden afternoon light. My face was in profile, looking out the window, and a single tear was caught on its journey down my cheek. But it was my expression that held me captive. It wasn't one of pure sadness. It was layered, complex. There was sorrow, yes, a deep and profound longing in my eyes. But there was also a quiet strength in the set of my jaw, a softness of remembrance around my mouth. I looked real. I looked like a woman who had lived. And surrounding this central portrait, like fragments of a beautiful, broken mosaic, were the ghosts of my memories. Faintly superimposed, almost like a dream, was the blurry image of David laughing in the kitchen. In another corner, the faint silhouette of the oak tree he planted. There was a glimpse of Mark's teenage scowl, and another of his adult, caring eyes. It was my entire life, my entire story of love and loss and continuity, all captured in one profound, artistic, and deeply emotional image. I brought a trembling hand to my mouth, fresh tears welling up, but this time, they were tears of a strange, beautiful catharsis. Mark, I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. It's everything. He watched me, his own emotions clear on his face. I wanted you to see what I see, he said softly. When I look at you, Mom, I don't just see my mom who's sad. I see the whole story. I see your love for Dad, which was so big it leaves a big space now that he's gone. I see your strength in getting up every morning. I see all the memories that made our family. I see a person who has loved deeply, and because of that, has hurt deeply, but is still here, still loving. I see the most beautiful person I know. I couldn't speak. I just pulled him into a tight hug, the kind that tries to convey a universe of gratitude and love that words could never hold. We had the photo framed and hung it on the living room wall, right where the sunlight hits it every afternoon. It's not just a picture of me. It's a testament to David, to our love, to the family we built. A testament to the pain of loss and the slow, steady work of healing. A testament to the profound vision of a son who saw past his mother's grief and reminded her of the beautiful, scarred, and complete story of her life. Now, when the silence feels too heavy, I look at that picture. I see the tear, but I also see the strength. I see the loss, but I also see the abiding love. I see the past, but I also see the present, and the future I am still building with my son. My son, who offered to take my picture, and in doing so, gave me back a piece of myself I thought was lost forever. He gave me the courage to see my own reflection not as a reminder of what was missing, but as a beautiful, ongoing story. And for that, I will be eternally grateful.